At the dusty county fairgrounds, an old livestock auction crackled with chatter as families gathered under a tin roof streaked by late sun. In a cramped pen at the edge, a tall chestnut stallion stood tense, his hide laced with jagged scars that mapped the hard miles behind him. The auctioneer rattled through lots of plump roans and shining bays, saving the scarred horse for last because no one expected a bid. Spectators muttered uncertain jokes about the animal's battered look, pretending toughness even while their eyes slid away from fresh welts across his flank, beneath banners fluttering lazily as if time itself were yawning. The horse's ears twitched at every harsh laugh, yet he remained oddly proud, lifting his head as though remembering better days on open ranges, with nervous shadows pooling at their boots like spilled ink from twilight. Flies swirled around a swollen cut near his shoulder, and children tugged parents toward food stalls rather than watching the pitiful scene, as unseen meadowlarks chirped beyond cracked wooden fences. Just then a lone cowboy in faded denim walked forward, his boots scuffing dust that floated like gold glitter in the light, in the sweet wind carrying hints of hay, sage, and cinnamon kettle corn. Everyone recognized him as Clay Cooper, a quiet rancher who preferred long trails to loud talk and whose word was as solid as fence posts, under lights that flickered between day and night like blinking eyes. Clay leaned on the rail, studying the horse not with pity but with a calm gaze used to read storm clouds or broken fences, with heartbeats thudding in unison to the creak of weathered boards overhead. He noticed how the stallion's eyes stayed clear, mirrors reflecting stubborn sparks instead of dull surrender despite pain, where the aroma of popcorn mingled with the metallic tang of horse sweat. The auctioneer raised his gavel and announced the scarred horse with half-hearted enthusiasm, his voice dipping as if embarrassed by the offering, in a hush broken only by distant barks from dogs herding restless calves. Bidding started at $50, a cruel price lower than rusted tractors sold earlier, and silence fell thicker than barn cobwebs, as the smell of diesel exhaust curled through the rafters like a sleepy snake. Moments dragged until a teenager giggled, echoing across planks, and the horse flinched, muscles rippling beneath his torn hide, beneath carnival balloons bobbing against the faded blue of a vast prairie sky. Clay's fingers closed over a single worn leather glove tucked in his back pocket, a habit when he weighed difficult choices, while sheet metal panels rattled, telling stories of storms long gone. Memories flooded him of a warhorse he once trained for rescue work after wildfires, a beast that taught him to trust hidden heart, with dust motes pirouetting through sunbeams like dancers in golden gowns. He lifted one hand, bidding $100 with a calm nod that startled the auctioneer into clearing his throat, as tumbleweeds rolled just beyond the loading pens whispering old secrets. Gasps scattered among the crowd like loose grain, and someone muttered that the cowboy must be joking or blind, in a valley where echoes could wander for miles before finding an ear. Clay only adjusted his hat brim, steady as sunrise, while the scarred stallion's nostrils widened, detecting a scent beyond fear, hope, while freckles of rust on the railings glinted like tiny embers of forgotten fires. Another rancher raised the bid by $5 to keep the joke alive, but his smile faded when Clay answered without blinking, under banners advertising chili cook-offs and pie contests scheduled for dawn. The tug-of-war lasted 3 rounds before the second man shrugged, unwilling to gamble real money on damaged goods, with sleepy clouds shaped like mustangs drifting over distant cottonwoods. Sold for $115, the auctioneer declared, dropping the gavel with more surprise than ceremony, as the taste of lemon ice lingered on children's tongues and made them smile. Clay signed the ledger, rubbed dust from his palm, and approached the pen as gossip swirled like wind through dry grass, in a fading light that promised purple storms yet offered peach-colored calm. The horse shifted yet did not retreat, meeting Clay's eyes as though searching for condemnation and finding none, with vendor bells ringing softly like church chimes carried across farmland. Clay whispered soft words about rain, grass, and endless sky, words a horse could not parse yet somehow understood, while longhorn silhouettes traced slow arcs against the prairie horizon. He untied the frayed rope halter, replacing it with his own braided lead that smelled of sagebrush and sweat-cured leather, in a warmth that melted even the hardest boot leather into comfortable folds. When he led the stallion toward the trailer, the horse limped but held his tail higher than before, proud of a new beginning, as diesel generators hummed lullabies to livestock behind canvas walls. Children returned for snack stalls just in time to see the unlikely pair, curiosity overriding earlier disgust, beneath scrapings of peeling paint where decades of names were carved. An elderly woman clapped lightly, remembering stories where kindness healed beasts and men alike, with distant trains crying lonesome songs that braided into the afternoon air. Clay paused to thank her, tipping his hat, unaware that her grandson filmed the scene for social media, as windmill blades turned lazily, slicing sunshine into playful ribbons of light. The camera captured sunlight flaring off scars like molten copper, making the stallion appear forged rather than broken, in a place where hope felt both fragile and stubborn like wildflower stems. Online, that short clip would soon spark thousands of comments about second chances, though Clay knew none of this yet, while pocket watches ticked in hidden overalls counting down to unknown futures. He loaded hay, scented with mint inside the trailer, coaxing the horse with gentle patience instead of force, under the watch of a crescent moon rising early like a shy guardian. The stallion hesitated at the ramp, legs trembling, until Clay walked in first, showing the path was safe and steady, with cotton clouds scattering pink dust the way storytellers scatter wonder. Hooves clanged on metal, echoing like distant drums, but Clay's voice soothed with rhythm, drowning fear, as the faint radio of a food truck played old cowboy ballads in crackling tones. As he latched the gate, distant thunder rolled over hills, promising rain for parched pastures and symbol for coming change, an air so dry it polished every whispered word until it rang clear. Clay glanced back and saw calm settle across the horse's face, the kind that comes when pain finally meets purpose, beneath antique banners that smelled of sugar, sweat, and well-loved memories. A little girl waved goodbye, cheeks sticky with cotton candy sugar, whispering she believed the horse would shine again, with hawks circling overhead as if curious about the commotion below. Her father smiled, surprised by her faith, and wondered if maybe the cowboy's gamble held a lesson for them all, in a hush that felt electric, like the moment before thunder wakes sleeping hills. The truck rumbled away, taillights fading into twilight, while behind the grandstand laughter slowed, thoughtful instead of cruel, while old friends exchanged quiet nods that carried decades of shared pastures. The old pickup rumbled down a washboard gravel road lined by silver sage, sun-bleached fence posts, and shy rabbits darting for cover, while every bump made Clay's coffee slosh and the far sky glowed the color of fresh peaches mixed with milk, and the smell of hot dust rose around them like baking bread. Inside the gooseneck trailer, the stallion braced wobbly legs against each rattling panel, felt bruises complain under tight skin. Yet he balanced with stubborn grace learned on windy plateaus where survival demanded courage every single sunrise, while memories of wild prairie gallops flickered behind tired eyes desperate for rest. Clay cruised at a crawl, humming a trail song his father taught by campfire, the tune floating out the open window like a meadowlark greeting daylight over endless wheat that whispered secrets to the wind and chased away the bite of night air still hiding in every shadow ditch. After almost an hour, the ranch gate appeared, a weather-scarred cedar arch crowned by a rusty tin star whose 5 points still caught sparks of light whenever the headlights bounced off quartz pebbles, like a faithful beacon for all travelers who trust stars over maps. Clay spoke softly to the unseen horse, explaining how that star had guided him home through whiteout snowstorms and thick midnight fog, promising it would shine tonight too, just for them, and the horse listened, ears swiveling like tiny radar dishes catching every gentle word. He eased the truck beside a wide, round corral freshly padded with pale river sand brought in by wagon, lay down so every sore hoof would meet only softness and not the unforgiving clay beneath, because comfort matters to aching bones as much as hopeful hearts yearning for peace. When the trailer door swung open, the scent of sweet alfalfa and new Timothy hay spilled in, curling around the stallion like a gentle invitation too kind to refuse, and even the shy barn cats crept closer, whiskers twitching with polite curiosity. The horse stretched his long neck, nostrils tasting quiet mountain air flavored by pine sap and distant rain, measuring safety the way wild things do when old memories still sting like nettles, each breath tasting like freedom seasoned with pine needles and promise. Clay backed slowly down the ramp, clicking his tongue in steady rhythm, boots crunching red grit, arms wide to show he carried nothing but respect and hopes as bright as the morning star overhead, until the shadow of worry melted from Clay's broad shoulders and slid into the dirt. Hooves met sand, and the stallion sighed, a long trembling breath that seemed to blow weeks of fear into the open sky where hawks traced lazy spirals over buttes, echoing softly across distant cottonwoods where owls prepared their evening songs. A tall windmill squeaked overhead, throwing silver flashes like tiny mirrors toward violet hills, and its slow glug-glug song spoke of sweet water waiting patiently beneath dry soil, while a lazy breeze carried the metallic scent of coming rain mixing with machine oil. Chickens bustled inside their cedar coop, feathers ruffling as they announced the newcomer with gossiping clucks drifting like bubblegum balloons into the pink dawn, yet their chatter sounded cheerful, as if telling jokes only chickens understand. Rusty, the freckled blue heeler, trotted over with belly low, tail sweeping dust, and offered a single polite bark, which in dog language meant welcome, friend, stay a while, Their greeting bounced against stall doors, then vanished into the gathering dusk. The stallion flared wide nostrils, caught the dog's honest scent of field grass and loyalty, then dipped his head in a calm nod, sealing a truce older than worn leather, and peace settled over both dog and horse like a shared blanket fresh from the line. Clay lifted a hose and filled a trough, watching cold mountain water swirl, each ripple catching sunrise like molten glass poured fresh by giants, as if blessing the moment with rhythms older than written memory. The stallion drank greedily, throat working, and stray droplets slid along white-lined scars to darken the sand below like tiny seeds preparing to sprout courage, and Braveheart felt coolness slide over skin like silk pulled from mountain snow. Clay studied every healed gash, already planning salves of aloe, wildflower honey, and patient thyme, recipes finer than anything on the pharmacy shelf, because true care always arrives quietly, stepping softer than snowfall on moss. He led the horse into a roomy stall whose pine boards still smelled like Christmas morning, straw piled knee-deep in golden as late afternoon sun, like a sanctuary built from nothing but honesty and time. Cozy wool blankets, sewn decades ago by Clay's mother, hung on a peg. Their bright squares whispered stories of campouts and lullabies, as though the quilts themselves remembered every smile sewn beneath lamplight. Evening drifted in sooner than expected, painting the valley lilac, rose, and soft gold, while Clay spread cool ointment that hissed like creek water over summer stones, while distant thunder drummed a slow heartbeat for the sleeping valley. Though Braveheart flinched at first touch, steady hands soon turned fear into relief, proving gentleness can thunder louder than cruelty, replacing sharp memories of whips with soothing waves of patience. Lantern light filled the barn with sweet amber, making dust motes spin like tiny fairies circling saddles and bridles hung in neat rows, until every corner seemed to glow with hidden campfires of hope. Clay spoke of tomorrow's sunrise, promising hills blanketed in silver dew and grass tall enough to tickle a horse's chest, and Clay promised wide skies where clouds ran races just to make the horse laugh. Braveheart blinked slowly, eyes shiny as polished amber marbles, as though already munching that meadow inside his mind, while tiny motes hovered like gold dust in the warm lantern aura. Outside, crickets tuned fiddles for the twilight concert, their music weaving with distant coyote yips, and their chirps braided with frog croaks beside the pond near the front pasture. Clay draped a light blanket across Braveheart's back, careful not to press tender skin, giving the gift of warmth without demanding anything but trust in return. He mixed crushed medicine with oats, molasses, and diced apple, turning bitter powder into a dessert fit for champions, sweet enough to make Braveheart imagine autumn fairs and blue ribbon pies. Braveheart sniffed, tasted a trial bite, then licked the bowl clean, surprised that healing could crunch and taste of orchard sweetness, proving that kindness can crunch between teeth and still taste like joy. "Good boy," Clay said, voice steady as an oak on a riverbank, and Rusty's tail thumped applause against stall walls, echoing through wooden rafters so even old barn bats heard the praise. Thunder rolled along far ridges, its deep voice shaking sagebrush like maracas, while sheet lightning scribbled bright sentences across clouds that no one else could read. Rain followed, tapping the tin roof with gentle fingertips at first, then drumming louder until every creature inside breathed the cool, clean promise of tomorrow, painting the roof with watery starlight that shivered whenever wind changed direction. Clay unfolded a canvas cot beside the stall, choosing to sleep within reach because trust, like seeds, grows fastest in shared darkness fed by calm words, because night lessons taught side by side plant courage deeper than daylight alone. Morning's first blush tinted the corral fences peach, and Clay waited by the gate with a bright carrot tucked inside one palm, hoping the scarred stallion would choose courage over caution today. The horse stepped forward, one careful hoof at a time, ears flicking like tiny flags as he stretched his muzzle toward the treat and found only patience instead of the shouts he once feared. Every dawn repeated this quiet dance until the carrot became a promise. Nothing painful would follow, gentle words spoken in the low, calm voice Clay used for lullabies. Braveheart, that was the name that finally felt right. Learned to stand still for a soft curry comb, and clumps of dusty hair drifted away on the breeze like brown snowflakes melting in warm light. Rusty trotted circles around them, offering playful yips whenever the horse relaxed, as if the little dog were cheering from the sidelines of an invisible parade. Clay never carried whips, only a lariat loose enough to fall if worry appeared, and that freedom let trust bloom quicker than wildflowers after spring rain. Soon Braveheart allowed Clay to lift each hoof, checking for stones or cracks, and the simple act felt monumental, like unlocking a door sealed years ago, because safety is the greatest key. With hooves cleaned and legs stretched, Clay led the horse to a quiet round pen, where the sand still held cool night moisture perfect for careful steps. He snapped a long line to the halter, then clucked his tongue, and Braveheart walked a slow circle, muscles stiff but eager, tail swishing to chase away the last scraps of fear. Children from the nearby school arrive in a yellow bus, chattering like sparrows, their field trip focused on empathy lessons written in real horsehair instead of textbooks. Clay explained scars in words a sixth grader could grasp. Hurt happens, but healing grows when kindness waters the wound, just like sunlight feeds young trees. When he invited volunteers to stroke Braveheart's neck, small hands trembled first then steadied, and the stallion's eyes softened into glossy puddles of peace. A shy boy placed a paper star sticker on the horse's lead rope, whispering, "For bravery," and Clay felt his throat tighten the way ponds freeze on the first hard frost. The teacher took notes for tomorrow's essay project, grateful her students were living a story deeper than any she could invent from chalk and lined paper. After the bus rolled away, Clay set bright plastic bags along the rail, so the flapping noise could test Braveheart's nerve. The horse snorted but stayed true to the circle, proving fear can fade like fog. Next came tarp bridges, pool noodles, and a ringing cowbell. Each obstacle conquered a steady walk until the pen looked like a carnival built for confidence, colorful and brave. That evening, Clay introduced a well-oiled saddle as gently as one might place a blanket on tired shoulders, cinching slowly and humming the same trail song his father loved, echoing through dusky rafters. Braveheart shifted weight, eyes wide, but when nothing hurt, he blew a long sigh that misted the cooling air and felt like a handshake sealing a fresh agreement between hearts and hooves. Clay set his boot in the stirrup, swung a leg over, and paused, heart hammering, sensing the entire ranch hold its breath. Then the horse stood still, sturdy as aged oak, roots deep in trust. They walked the perimeter of the pasture, moon rising in lavender dusk, hooves whispering over grass trimmed short by earlier sheep, every sound wrapped in silver hush that calmed all nerves. Stars winked awake one by one, reflecting in the creek that cut across the far meadow, and Braveheart's ears turned toward crickets, accepting their nighttime lullaby like a gift. Clay dismounted near the barn, praising with sugar cubes and neck pats, and the stallion nickered a soft reply that lit Clay's smile brighter than porch lanterns guiding travelers home. Inside the tack room, Clay recorded progress in a red notebook smudged by years of sweat and hope, noting each victory, so tomorrow's plan could climb one step higher on the ladder of healing. He sketched a diagram of ground poles for small jumps, imagining Braveheart floating like a copper-coated cloud over stripes of painted wood, feathers of dust trailing behind. Rusty thumped his tail against the hay bale, approving the idea with a canine grin that always made Clay believe impossible things were secretly simple, needing only patience. Over the next week, trot sets replaced walking circles, and Clay counted strides aloud so rhythm could sink into muscle memory the way songs settle into ears during long summer drives. Braveheart found balance, scars stretching but not tearing, and soon his trot felt springy as a trampoline hiding under the earth, launching hope higher each lap. Word spread. Neighbors lined the fence each afternoon, some bringing lawn chairs, others bringing fresh-baked pie, everyone hungry to witness change served warm from the heart instead of an oven. An elderly rancher placed a faded blue ribbon in Clay's hand, explaining it once belonged to a champion jumper lost to old age, and he wanted Braveheart to carry legacy forward into new arenas. Clay pinned a ribbon to the stall door where sunlight kissed the frayed edges, turning decades of memory into fresh motivation that fluttered whenever a breeze passed by. Small jumps grew into crossrails, and Braveheart soared, front legs tucked neat as folded napkins, landing light enough to leave only faint impressions in the sand and wide smiles on every face. The school children returned, filling the yard with cheers louder than barn swallows, and Braveheart puffed his chest, proud to be the hero in their lunchtime stories and playground retellings. A local newspaper reporter snapped photos, marveling at the glossy coat where scars once dominated, promising the feature would run Sunday beside tales of county heroes and blue-ribbon pies. Clay, shy about spotlight, shrugged but allowed it, knowing each article could plant seeds of kindness in readers he would never meet, and seeds were his favorite currency. With stamina rising, trail rides replaced round-pen drills, and the pair explored rolling hills where prairie grass bowed like polite audiences applauding every steady stride. They crossed creeks sparkling clear enough to mirror clouds, and Braveheart splashed like a foal discovering water for the first time, laughter ringing from Clay's throat. Atop a ridge, they paused to watch antelope bound across distant flats, and Clay whispered that speed is fun but steady hearts win longer races, words the wind carried away. The stallion flicked an ear as if agreeing, and together they trotted home, evening sun turning every flying insect into specks of gold dust dancing on warm air scented with sage. That night, as wind rattled loose shutters, Clay dreamed of entering Braveheart in a small-town charity rodeo, letting crowds learn what second chances really look like under bright lights. The day's first rooster crowed approval, and Braveheart answered with a proud whinny, ready to gallop toward whatever sunrise set in their path, hooves itching for tomorrow's adventure. Morning sun shone like a bronze coin, and Clay led Braveheart into an arena bordered by white rails where streamers flapped, signaling practice for the charity rodeo 3 weeks away. Volunteers raked the soft dirt so hoof prints showed progress, and the stallions sniffed air full of popcorn, sunscreen, and new paint, deciding the place smelled more like fun than fear. Clay laid brightly colored ground poles and patterns that looked like board game paths, then walked Braveheart over them at a slow march to build steady rhythm. Each clop sounded firm, like a judge's gavel promising fairness, and teenagers clapped at the horse's calm pace because courage, they said, is always louder than scars. Next they trotted serpentines between orange cones, the tail tracing graceful ribbons through dusty light, and even the ranch cat paused to admire the neat pattern. A small brass band rehearsed near the bleachers, trumpets firing cheerful notes across the arena, and Clay kept his voice low so Braveheart matched breathing to the upbeat music. Between sets, Clay loosened a girth, offered water, and rubbed Braveheart's neck until muscles softened, showing everyone that rest builds champions. After practice, they strolled the midway where workers tested rides. Flashing bulbs reflected in the horse's eyes like tiny skylines, yet he walked on with head held high. Children dashed past waving cotton candy sticks that left blue sugar trails, and Braveheart merely blinked, proving trust can turn noise into harmless color. An announcer testing the loudspeaker boomed, "Check 1, 2," and the stallion flinched once, but Clay praised the quick recovery, showing growth hides and tiny rebounds. Reporter Maria Lopez arrived with a camera crew, filming Braveheart nudging a little girl's straw hat, a clip sure to warm evening viewers' hearts. Clay told her every town has a forgotten animal or person who needs one, yes, and Maria nodded like she was saving that line for her headline. Back home, they set barrels on a clover leaf. Braveheart turned tight, hindquarters sliding like a sled on fresh snow, while front hooves tossed sparks of dust. Clay counted, 1, 2, 3, turn, and Rusty barked on beat, making the drill feel like a dance shared by cowboy, dog, and horse. They added mounting blocks so spectators in wheelchairs could meet Braveheart eye to eye on event day, because welcome signs matter as much as blue ribbons. Neighbors brought star-embroidered leg wraps. The stallion stood still while Clay wrapped each limb, bright fabric hugging tendons like stylish support. Each evening Clay replayed helmet cam footage, pausing where Braveheart hesitated and adjusting drills, a skill he learned building fence across rocky draws. On rainy days they trained inside the covered barn, weaving through pool noodles painted like snakes. Braveheart soon walked calmly, shadows sliding over his coat like soft clouds. School kids mailed superhero drawings of Braveheart. Clay taped them to the tack room, so bright scribbles cheered the horse each time he passed. 2 days before the show, the vet cleared Braveheart for light competition, amazed that scar tissue now felt strong, more map of survival than mark of pain. That night, Clay polished silver conchos on his saddle until they caught lantern light like tiny suns, wanting every detail to honor the journey. Rodeo morning dawned cool and peach gold. Clay braided Braveheart's mane while butterflies tumbled in his stomach like loose marbles. Spectators filled wooden bleachers waving programs titled Second Chance Showdown, and kids held Go Braveheart signs painted in giant letters. The pair entered at a walk. Sunlight made healed lines gleam like rivers on a copper map, and the crowd hushed, seeing scars could shine instead of shame. During the pattern class, Clay, guided with loose reins and voice cues. Braveheart's pivots were so smooth it seemed the ground moved under him. Judges lifted scorecards. Tins popped up like prairie dog heads, and cheers rolled over the valley like happy thunder. Next came a freestyle set to music. Clay chose the lullaby he once hummed at midnight, and Braveheart stepped and spun in time, turning their rescue story into living ballet. A teenager who once giggled at the auction wiped tears. Learning laughter can grow into applause when humility waters it. During a break, children with sensory worries petted Braveheart's shoulder. He stood breathing slow, teaching patience without a single word. Final scores named Braveheart champion, earning a turquoise ribbon that matched the high plains sky, and Clay pinned it beside the family heirloom ribbon at the stall. The announcer invited Clay to speak. He said, "Scars show where hurt was, not where hope ends," and the silence that followed burst into roaring cheers. Maria's crew filmed a speech. By sunset, the clip raced across social media, gathering likes faster than tumbleweeds catch wind, inspiring donations to rescue shelters and sparking emails from distant horse lovers who promised to share Braveheart's tale in classrooms and coffee shops. Back at the ranch, Braveheart rolled in soft sand, legs splayed like a playful colt, leaving star-shaped prints pressed into the earth. Clay laughed deep, a sound that shook old worries free, because joy felt safest when shared with sky, soil, horse, and a dog spinning happy circles. At dusk, neighbors gathered for potluck. Pies, chili, and cornbread filled tables, and the turquoise ribbon fluttered on a post for even the setting sun to admire. An elderly fiddler played while kids swung lanterns catching fireflies, and Braveheart grazed nearby, tail swishing in time with the tune. Clay thanked everyone for believing, raising a mason jar of sweet tea, his voice cracking once before steadying like a good saddle tree. The little girl offered a painted horseshoe that read Hero, tiny fingerprints making the gift priceless. Under early autumn stars, Clay brushed Braveheart, whispering that tomorrow would hold quiet pasture rides instead of spotlights, because balance keeps victory kind. Crickets tuned their strings, coyotes sang back up, and a soft breeze carried distant laughter up the draw, proof that kindness can echo farther than any loudspeaker ever will. When sunrise broke after the potluck, Clay leaned on a gate and saw Braveheart grazing by tall grass that bent like green waves, and he knew the next chapter would be bigger than ribbons. News of the rodeo win had spread overnight like sparks on dry straw, so by breakfast the ranch phone rang nonstop with people asking how to help other hurt horses find new hope. Clay wrote each caller's name in his red notebook, amazed that strangers from distant states offered hay, money, vet supplies, and time, proving kindness travels faster than any roadmap shows. Braveheart wandered close, resting his scarred jaw on Clay's shoulder, as if to say they would handle this flood together, and Clay's heart thumped like a drum at a school parade. He drove into town and met the bank manager, pitching the idea of a small rescue barn. The manager, teary from the video clip, approved a low-interest loan before morning coffee cooled. Volunteers arrived that afternoon with tool belts, lumber, and eagerness. Saw blades sang, hammers clacked, and boards snapped into place until a fresh cedar frame stood bright against blue sky. Braveheart watched the building grow, ears turning toward every nail hit, and children painted colorful handprints on the boards so rescued animals would feel welcome from the first step inside. Clay found room at the pasture's edge for a teaching circle where students could meet animals, and he set smooth benches carved from fallen cottonwood trunks polished by honest sweat. The first rescue, a skinny gray mare named Whisper, arrived on a rainy Tuesday. Braveheart greeted her with a gentle nicker, showing that leaders use warmth instead of weight. Whisper trembled at thunder, but Braveheart stood beside her, blocking wind like a living windbreak, and soon the mare's shaking slowed to soft breaths that smelled of wet clover. A middle school counselor called on a crisp Thursday when marigolds lined the driveway, asking if anxious kids could visit because animals heal hurts words cannot reach, and Clay opened the gate once. On visit day, Whisper and Braveheart stood in sunshine while children read short poems aloud. Each verse fluttered into the air like paper birds, landing quietly on scarred backs now growing strong. One boy who rarely spoke traced Whisper's thin mane with careful fingers, and his shy smile glowed brighter than the barn's new solar lights, causing his teacher to wipe away grateful tears. Clay taught the class how horses read body language. Students practiced slow breathing and open palms until even restless feet stilled, and the arena felt as calm as snowfall on still water. By evening, the school posted photos online, and parents replied that bedtime grew easier because children now pictured courage as a gentle horse, not a roaring superhero. Donations rose high enough to hire a second vet, Dr. Singh, who arrived with stethoscopes clinking like tiny bells and a smile wide as the prairies she had crossed to reach this mission. Dr. Singh examined Braveheart's scars, nodded at the strong, new muscle beneath, said survivors often become teachers if given room to shine, and Clay felt her words settle like gentle sunrise. Together they wrote training plans for Whisper, mixing slow stretches, balanced feed, and stories read aloud so the mare's ears linked healing sounds with gentle handling. Each plan page ended with one bright word. Because Dr. Singh insisted every creature deserves a little fun baked into daily chores, even if fun is only 3 extra minutes in warm sunshine. Week by week, more trailers pulled in, a flea-bitten pony named Comet, 2 mules abandoned after harvest, and an old draft gelding whose eyes still held dreams of pulling carnival wagons. Braveheart became tour guide, leading new arrivals to water troughs, then stepping back so they could drink in safety while he kept watch like a weathered but kind sheriff. Clay noticed his once-scarred champion now flowed smoother than creek water on stones, and he realized healing others had finished healing Braveheart, completing a gentle circle. The rescue barn soon rang with mixed hoofbeats that sounded like percussion practice, and laughter from volunteers stitched harmony through the rhythm until even rainy days felt bright. To keep hay stacked, Clay started weekend barn dances where entry was one bale or one bag of grain. Fiddles and guitars filled the loft, and bales piled high as the moon before music stopped. Teens who once idled at gas stations discovered mucking stalls could earn community service credits, and they left smelling of hay but walking taller than when they arrived. A retired carpenter built an information kiosk by the gate, posting each animal's story under glossy photos so visitors could track progress and maybe sponsor feed for a month. Braveheart's profile sat at the top, now updated with a victory photo and the line, "From last chance to first friend," reminding everyone that endings can flip into beginnings. One Saturday, Clay guided a tour for a film crew producing a children's show on empathy. Braveheart nuzzled the host's microphone, making the boom operator laugh so hard the camera shook. The episode aired nationally, and letters arrived from viewers coast to coast. Some included crayon drawings, others contained coins taped to notebook paper with notes saying, "For the horses." Clay saved every letter in a wooden trunk, planning to read them aloud on hard days because written hope, he said, keeps walls upright when nails feel weak and hearts wobble in storm winds. With new funds, the team dug a small pond so animals could splash on hot days. Braveheart stepped in first, water flying like liquid diamonds, and Whisper followed, teaching herself joy through imitation. At dusk, frogs croaked applause for the splashing show, and kids on blankets counted frog jumps before splashes, while fireflies blinked bright encouragement like tiny lanterns. Dr. Singh organized free clinics, vaccinating farm dogs and cats while their owners toured the barn. Community health, she said, starts where compassion and practice shake hands. A local college sent interns, and Clay taught them that spreadsheets matter as much as saddle pads. Numbers feed noses, and clear ledgers prevent empty troughs, so math class finally smelled like fresh hay. Braveheart stood statue still while an art student sketched him under sunset. Her drawing later sold at a county fair auction, buying feed enough to last through first frost. When winter whispered near, volunteers hung windbreak tarps around pastures, and Braveheart patrolled, tugging at loose edges until every corner was tight, proving former outcasts could become caretakers. Holiday lights draped the barn rafters, and visitors drank cocoa while horses crunched peppermint treats. Clay lifted a mug and toasted to second chances, chasing away long nights. A newspaper article called the ranch a lighthouse for lost hoofs, a phrase so fitting. Clay painted it above the gate in bold letters that caught sunrise like fresh promise every morning. Under those letters, Braveheart now greeted each car. Scars faded to gentle lines that told a story more about courage than pain, and drivers often rolled down windows just to thank the horse. Clay watched these moments with quiet pride, understanding that a single bid at a dusty auction had grown into a whole chorus of kindness echoing farther than any rodeo cheer ever reached. The calendar flipped to midsummer, and Lighthouse Ranch buzzed like a beehive preparing for its biggest event yet, a county-wide Second Chances festival meant to raise money for even more rescue stalls. Clay rose before dawn, packing folding tables, posters, and a single lucky horseshoe Braveheart had dropped the week after his first ride, believing small symbols carry large hope. Braveheart watched from the pasture gate, tail switching slow and proud, as volunteers strung rainbow bunting along the rail fence until the boards looked like a parade had taken a deep breath and stretched. Kids arrived waving homemade tickets printed on bright index cards. Each ticket bought 10 minutes brushing a rescue horse, proving good deeds can be exchanged like treasures at a fair booth. Rusty trotted beside the crowd wearing a neckerchief that read Vice Mayor of Wagging, prompting giggles that floated away like soap bubbles in the warm July air. Dr. Singh set up a vet for a day station, letting children listen to heartbeats through real stethoscopes, and every whoosh inside Braveheart's chest sounded like the word yes whispered over and over. A portable library van rolled in, its side panels painted with galloping mustangs, and librarians read horse stories aloud while Whisper napped nearby, ears twitching at the funniest parts. At noon, Maria Lopez returned, this time live streaming to classrooms across 5 states, and she introduced Braveheart as the horse who turned a dusty auction into an endless beginning. Clay stepped onto a small stage built from hay bales, thanked the community, and kept his speech short because, he joked, hay was softer for sitting than for standing long. Next came the talent show, where Comet pulled a tiny cart filled with sunflowers and an elderly mule named Jasper braid the alphabet, convincing everyone learning never truly retires. A shy 4th grader played violin beside Braveheart's stall. The soft notes quivered like dragonfly wings, calming even the jittery barn swallows perched in rafters far above. Lemonade sales soared when Clay agreed to match every cup with a personal dollar toward winter feed, and he silently hoped he could still afford shoeing bills after so many refills. As afternoon heat rose, volunteers misted the horses with cool water, creating shimmering halos around them that turned the dusty arena into a field of walking rainbows. The auctioneer, now a devoted ally, arrived with a truckload of fresh lumber, promising to build a wheelchair-friendly viewing deck so all visitors could watch horses train eye to eye. Mid-festival, dark clouds brewed on the horizon again, reminding Clay of last year's sudden storm, but he felt a strange calm because the ranch now had hands enough to meet any gust. Braveheart sensed the change in air, lifted his head, and stood square as a cedar post, reassuring younger rescues that thunder is just sky doing heavy work. A gust flipped the welcome board, and the crowd caught it midair, laughter rising with the wind the way birds draft upward on thermal waves. Rain finally fell, gentle this time, speckling hats, cooling dust, and polishing banners until colors deepened like fresh paint on old barn doors. No one ran for cover. Instead, they kept brushing horses and pouring lemonade, deciding a little water never spoiled a growing garden of kindness. When raindrops stopped, sunlight broke through, and a faint rainbow curved exactly above the new viewing deck, as though the sky had stamped the day with a bright approval seal. Clay's phone buzzed, a message from a regional foundation offering a matching grant for every festival dollar, and his breath caught like sailcloth filling with sudden wind. He shared the news over the loudspeaker, and cheers echoed against surrounding hills while Braveheart tipped his head, perhaps wondering why humans sometimes neigh so strangely. By late afternoon, jars of the donation table overflowed with bills and coins. Volunteers replaced them with feed buckets, and even those started filling like magic. A local mechanic delivered a refurbished stock trailer painted sky blue with Braveheart's silhouette, saying he could not gift free time but wheels move miracles quicker than wishes. Clay shook the man's hand so firmly, the mechanic joked he might need a new wrench grip, and the handshake symbolized another plank added to the bridge connecting people and animals. Under a cottonwood, Dr. Singh guided a mindfulness circle. Children practiced slow breathing alongside whisper, whose deep inhales matched theirs like percussion under a lullaby. Nearby, art students painted the festival on a graffiti-style mural slated for the town park, ensuring Braveheart's story would gallop far beyond ranch gates. At sunset, the talent show stage transformed into a dance floor lit by strings of mason jar lights and one enormous harvest moon rising like an orange balloon. Clay led the first two-step with an elderly teacher who had donated books. Braveheart watched, flicking an ear to the beat as though counting steps silently. The auctioneer surprised everyone by belting an old cowboy ballad in a rich baritone. His final note lingered in the twilight like smoke curling from an evening campfire. When the stars blinked on, Clay gathered folks near the bonfire ring and announced that festival funds plus the grant meant construction of Braveheart Barn 2 could start within a month. Children exploded in cheers, and even teenagers, usually too cool, joined the happy racket, while volunteers hugged like relatives reunited at a station platform. Clay then revealed a small silver plaque with Braveheart's story etched in simple words, planning to mount it beside the new barn door so visitors could read courage before they even met a horse. He pressed the plaque into Braveheart's nose for a moment so it could carry the horse's breath forever in its metal pores, then lifted it high for cameras flashing like distant lightning. Fireflies pulsed over the dark pasture, and somebody turned down the music just to hear their wings. Silence, it seemed, can sing when hearts are tuned. Clay ended the night the way each journey had begun, with a carrot offered on an open palm, and Braveheart accepted, crunching loud enough to make toddlers giggle again. Families headed home under a spray of Milky Way starlight, promising to return with blankets when snow fell and help keep every stall warm with laughter. The last volunteer latched the gate, and Clay stood a moment longer, tasting wood smoke, rainy dust, and the sweet thrill of tomorrow's possibilities rolling in like gentle thunder. Braveheart stepped beside him, shoulder to shoulder, both watching a shooting star skip across the black sky, as if racing to share news of the day with some other hopeful horizon. Clay patted the strong neck once marked by pain, whispered, "Good job, partner," and together they walked toward the dim barn lights, certain the trail of second chances would stretch far beyond any map they could draw tonight.